I've gotten so many press releases over the years that are completely impersonalized. And it's just like, I throw them in the trash. Like it's nothing personal to them, but like, you don't give a crap about my brand. You just want your client to be visible, you know? And so like people are just over that. That's another thing AI can't take away. Like it's a relationship building.
Hey, Guy Powell here, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit prorelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. As you all know, I am the author of the newly released book, The AI Marketing Machine, and it's available now. Go to either marketingmachine.prorelevant.com or go to Amazon and you can order it directly either for your Kindle or as a paperback. And otherwise, today I am interviewing really fascinating person. Her name is Jaclyn Zukerman Delory, and she is with Next On Scene Media. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Jaclyn Zukerman Delory is a Boston-based publicist, producer, and visibility strategist who helps entrepreneurs and brands get seen and recognized through media. With over a decade of experience across PR, podcasting, and brand production, she leads Next On Scene Media's signature 360-degree visibility approach, merging strategy, storytelling, and amplification under one system. Her expertise has helped hundreds of business owners secure press placements, grow their platforms, and establish themselves as thought leaders. Through her flagship offering, Blueprints by Jaclyn, she develops personalized PR and media strategies designed to help clients accelerate exposure and create long-term momentum. Welcome, Jaclyn. It's so good to have you on.
Marketing's operating system has been replaced. Not upgraded, not improved. Replaced, completely and totally replaced. AI isn't a tool you bolt onto your existing marketing organization. It's a fundamental redesign of how marketing thinks, operates, and creates value. And most CMOs are already behind. The AI marketing machine is the field guide for marketing leaders who want to get ahead of that curve. Built on more than a decade of the marketing machine methodology and interviews with over 100 CMOs, this book shows you how to harness generative and analytic AI together, without losing the human edge that makes great marketing unforgettable. This isn't theory, this is the playbook. How to redesign your team, how to build AI into the foundation of how you work, how to prove ROI in the boardroom, and how to lead the intelligent marketing machine that wins in the marketplace. Marketing's future is already here. The question is whether you're building it or watching someone else do it. The AI marketing machine, available now.
Such a nice introduction, Guy. Thank you. That was so nice.
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is all about you, so I'm glad to help out. No, it's fantastic. You have such a great background, and really looking forward to you. So, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in AI and marketing and PR.
Yeah, so AI, I'm still learning the ins and outs of, which is why we're chatting today, right? But I would say for me personally, like I think I fell into PR because I went to school for communications, thought I was going to go into the fashion realm of doing fashion design, merchandising, and I didn't have the skill set to learn about chemistry. It was not my zone of genius. So I was like, I can talk to people, I'll just represent the talent. So that's how it came about. So I started to represent designers and it just felt really authentic. And so that's kind of how I fell into the world of PR. And
Yeah, fantastic. Well, PR is so much fun. I mean, and as I mentioned in the teaser, or maybe it was before that, we've found PR to be significantly more effective than paid media. And in terms of dollar for dollar, what you spend on PR and then what it's worth in terms of driving the sales and driving brand and things like that. So it's a great place to be, and earned media and is just so critical for any company.
I think what I'm seeing now too, because when I started my business too, I was a complete startup media outlet with my podcast. I have a magazine and things like that. So I do think there are some small forms of media outlets that you can pay smaller costs that actually do have, like how they have different influencers, like
Hmm.
influencers, like the smaller ones actually generate real ROI. So like that's kind of where my business really started before that was even a thing. Like I would have them on different avenue things I was doing and that really grew my business to where it is today. So
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right. And it's funny because what I really like to understand is how do I get my podcast to go viral?
Mhm.
That's the question I've gotten. If somebody has some hints on that, man, oh man,
You
I'm
know what
ready
you
for
need to
that.
do? I just discussed this on a recent podcast. Like, you got to hop on the trends. Whatever trends are going around, if you're relevant within the trend that it's happening within that short time frame, you're part of that virality. Does that make any sense? So, like, in
Oh,
order,
absolutely.
yeah, so I think that's a really important way to just get your brand out there in terms of recognition to then say, oh, who's Guy Powell? Like, I should follow him, and that's how you really grow from there. So,
Yeah, well, then we'll have to say World Cup a couple times throughout, and
exactly.
and right now that is the trend, I'll tell you.
It's so true. It's so true. There was an article or somebody told me this other day that Google had the most searches ever because of the World Cup. They wanted to look up Argentina. So did you hear this at all? I don't know. Somebody
No.
told me that. It was so interesting. Like, people from all over the world were using Google to learn about the Argentinian players or something. It was so fascinating. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that really is. Well, and search is just so important as well for all kinds of brands
yeah.
and to hear something like that. So anyway, say World Cup, please.
World Cup.
World Cup, we are there. Now I'm on the trend. I'm looking
I
for my
love it.
virality.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So, what's funny is, especially in PR, what you're trying to do is get visibility. So, what exactly do you mean by visibility? And why do so many people, entrepreneurs, founders have so much trouble getting visibility?
Yeah, so I think this something that I think makes me stand out working with clients is I think where AI can't ever take this from you is the vulnerable stories we all have. We all have stories in our lives that connect emotionally to other people. And the more we can start opening and sharing those stories, like, that cracks the door open to really grow to the masses. But you have to also, like, grow the confidence in that. Like, I'm spiritual, like, there's a lot of stuff that comes with that. So I think that that's a big door opener.
Well, that is so funny because I've written six business marketing books, and then I've written one historical fiction on the Shroud of Turin. And everybody, when I'm talking to people, they go, "What do you mean you wrote this book? Where did that come from?" And then we end up making a real connection on that,
Yeah.
and then that connection, of course, translates over to the marketing side of things as well.
So interesting. I always say, like, you'll always connect personally with somebody before a business connection. You will. So interesting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And people, as much as we'd like to say, well, we analyzed and investigated exactly the product and how it's going to fit in with either the home or the business, and yet the actual decision is made based on emotion, and then it's justified with business, and facts and stuff like that.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, emotional buying is a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just is. Like, you hit my emotion, I'm buying. Like, I'm gonna feel yeah, that's just real. That's just real life, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. So what's the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make when they're trying to get more exposure?
Yeah, so I think some people think they're ready for PR and they're not. I think that's something that I've seen a lot. I think, like, there's a lot of eyes on you by the time you're ready for PR, that if you're not confident enough to get judgment or things that can give you feedback you're not ready for, it can hit you pretty hard. So I always, like, I'm pretty good now. I've been doing this for a while, but reading the personality in the room in terms of, like, well, maybe you should try this avenue, like maybe do some media training before you explore this. Have you, like, done internal work? Like I said, I'm spiritual. Like, have you done the internal work to, like, if there are judgment things coming at you, can you handle that? Because it's at the end of the day, when people judge you, it's not about you. It's about their own shit, excuse my language. It's about their own stuff. So, like, you have to just be okay with, like, even if it's coming at you, it's not directed completely towards you. It's something they're, like, reflecting on back to you. So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I remember early on in my career, I got some PR training. It was informal, it wasn't formal. But I will admit it really did help out a lot. And no question about it. They started me out small with some secondary publications, and you would get questions that you may never have gotten before. And so you do have to think a little bit on your feet. But that practice of being able to not only take that question, turn that question or give it a good answer and turn it around into something that's kind of positive for either yourself or your business or your products that you're promoting.
Totally. I love that. That's such a great thing they did with you because I do that with a lot of small businesses that do not have any media experience. Like that's really it also gives you the confidence. Don't you agree with that? Like in terms of confidence building, you're like, oh, I've done this before now. Like even though it was on a smaller stage, it still was the same sort of setup, like concept. Love that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and you're so right too. The confidence building is absolutely critical, and AI can't do that.
Right.
And getting just having that confidence and presence to say, "Oh yeah, okay, so I might get some some questions or hard questions or whatever, but hey, I know how to answer them. I'm ready."
Right.
And that's even with a presentation. It's funny. A friend of mine, she did a TEDx talk and she had to memorize the whole thing. And I don't know if I'm up for necessarily doing that, but when you know your topic, and in her case, she had it memorized incredibly well. But when you know your topic, it's so easy to give a presentation and so easy to answer those questions.
Totally. I think also too what I've seen in TV news specifically is like you can give reporters questions all day. Like they're not going to ask every single question that you prepped your client on. So like I think those are things that the media training, exactly what you're saying, can really help with, you know? So
Yeah, yeah. So what's one way that an entrepreneur, a founder can really start becoming more visible, today or tomorrow?
yeah, so I love looking at photo content you're putting out there, video content you're putting out there. Like, are your videos sticking with people? How are you showing up regularly, right? Like, are people seeing you as a thought leader? Are they engaging in your content? Like, things that you should really pay attention to translate. I think that those are great avenues to start with. So, like, do some prep on video, like regularly, consistently. Like, the power is in consistency, right? That's marketing
Mm,
one, right? So, I tell people, like, every week on Monday, 11 a.m., like it's going out, like that's what you're doing. Like, and just the consistency is what makes it stick over time. It's what makes your confidence build. So I say like creating themes of how you're putting your marketing out every week is really important. Um, and then I think doing some media training can never hurt you, right? Like I would say those are great avenues to start with in terms of prepping for PR and getting picked up.
yeah, yeah, I agree so much, and it's the and that prep, regardless of whether you think you need it or not, you need it. Number
Totally.
one, and number two, just that practice and confidence building that comes out of that. So, a quick question, as we were talking. What about the press release? Are press releases still important? Should we be sending those out,
It's a
or are
really
those
great
kind of
question. So I think like a newswire, like valuable for brand recognition, right? Like you can say you've been on this many outlets. Some of them are really legit. Like when I've done them, like USA Today picks them up, Business Insider, like they live there forever. So I think for those purposes, don't go into it like I'm going to get picked up by something. Like it's about how you market it after the fact. So I think that's one avenue that I think it's valuable. I think if you're blasting journalists and editors and reporters like press releases, they don't get picked up the same way anymore. They need personalization. Reporters, it's all about relationships. Like I'm seeing that happen more and more now. And as somebody who even has a publication of their own, I've gotten so many press releases over the years that are completely impersonalized. And it's just like, I throw them in the trash. Like it's nothing personal to them, but like you don't give a crap about my brand. You just want your client to be visible, And so like people are just over that. That's another thing AI can't take away. Like it's a relationship building thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but AI can help you to personalize it, though, on the other hand.
A hundred
So,
percent, 100%.
yeah, yeah.
But you still need, there is like, do some engagement on social media with the journalists, like do some engagement with so that they start to even notice you exist. Like I tell people that all the time. It's like that's really over the years how I built the relationships I've had. And when I pitch specifically for my clients, I don't blast journalists. Like I really take the time to really cater to people that I actually think are going to care because I took the time to care about them. Like it's about caring at the end of the day and
Yeah.
noticing.
Yeah,
So,
and empathy and
yeah,
understanding where they're coming from.
right,
It's so critical. And I like the idea though, engaging with them on social because they do need to remember who you are. So at least if you get at some point when you have something really you want to get out there, they'll kind of go, "Oh, I know Guy Powell. He's blah blah
right,
blah."
right.
And and so let me maybe think about that. Because I know I've gone to the PRSA and the editors. They say we got stacks and emails and blasts and FedExes and we get so many press releases you can't even look at them all. And and so it's kind of like, well, that one, the headline didn't get it. Oh, I don't see anything there. And oh, there's Guy Powell or Jack, or Jaclyn, and and oh, let me take a look at that, and maybe there's something there. So at least you get out of the the fast turn of the ones you're not interested in.
It's so true. I mean, I don't want to throw it out the bus because there's definitely one-offs that get picked up through a press release. Like, I don't think it's completely gone, but it's way more rare for that to happen now, you know? So that's just what I've seen over the years.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, and just the number of press releases, and then also, then to your point, I think too, the media landscape has changed. I mean, there's still TV and there's still radio and well, there's a little bit of print, but the print is now, mostly digital.
Right.
And but then there's all this other really cool stuff. There's podcasters, there's influencers, there's all these other things where you'd want to be picked up and get some exposure. And those so now you also have to make sure that you have to focus in on whatever one you think you can do the best job with.
Right.
And I think, and to your point, I don't know, I'd love to get your perspectives on it. Because there are so many new channels, especially for a small business or an entrepreneur, you kind of have to, it would seem like you'd want to just pick one or maybe one or two as opposed to trying to get everything.
What's the like I love I call it like intentional marketing. Like it really is. Like the more intentional you are, the better opportunities that open up. It's almost like if you blast 50 people with the same message, it doesn't feel there's no feeling to it. Like I think if
Mm.
you actually go in and do something like being on podcasts, like being selective of who you're sharing your time with, like that's where the real opportunities come from. That's what I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what does it look like to build visibility that really leads to legacy so that it stays out there and it's not just a one-time hit or you're getting burned out or
Right.
whatever.
Well, first of all, they need people like you and I, right, Guy? That's what they need. But I think like I really though, like they need to think that their big goals. Like somebody said this to me a long time ago. It's like you might have goals, like think bigger than your goal. Like what would be even better, right? And I love that saying because I think
Hmm.
we can't even process what would even be better than that, you know? So like I think what would be the dream and what could be even better than that? And then how can you get there, right? So I think it's looking at all like the way that I look at it with clients is I look at all their visuals, their photo and video content they have, any branding shoots they've done, any messaging they put out in their social media, and like, is it depicting the end goal? Like, is it depicting the end goal? How are you getting there? And so we create a plan. So I create a blueprint plan with them through their website, their social media, their emails, any partnerships, brand deals. Like we go through all of it in media as well. And then we create a roadmap of how to get there in each category. And so that's how you really get it to stick because it's not an overnight thing. Like I look to these plans as like a year plus out for people. Like you
Yeah.
can't just like it's never an overnight game, you know, it's a long game. But if you go in with it intentionally, which is what I like to do in these plans, that's where the results come.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and I think you're so right. It is building the brand certainly, and it's the credibility that you get from somebody else saying that you're, better than the competition or here are the great things you have. It's not you just tooting your own horn. It's somebody else helping you to give you credibility. And I think that credibility is what you have to work with them. And then I do like your point about personalizing the message. I do remember I was at one of these PRSA meetings and the editors are saying, listen, don't just send me some AI generated slop. I already get enough of those. Send me something that makes sense.
it's so real though, because like that's the personal connection. Like that's exactly what they're saying because they get so many probably AI pitches regularly that like you're going to stand out. They're going to know immediately if it's an AI email or not, you know? So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And having written my book with AI, I tell you, I now know what AI does when it writes, and there's some things in there that just are so frustrating, and they're hard to get out. Like just a couple of things, and you notice them, especially if you've done a lot of reading of AI content, and then you really have to think about how to rewrite that. So I could
Absolutely.
imagine, the press is there, or the editors are really, that they're aware of that as well.
Well, especially because they write, like that's what they do for a living. Most editors write full time for a living. So they'll know like if it's AI or not, you know? So, and also like I think another thing too is a lot of them feel threatened because AI could take a lot of jobs from writers.
Mm.
That's just a huge thing. And so I think that that's also why they're more sensitive. Like they can just sense it immediately. So.
How do you see AI kind of helping the editors? And then how is it that someone that's looking to get some visibility, how can they leverage that potentially to get that visibility, given that the editors are going to be migrating over to more and more AI?
I know it's so interesting because I know an editor who is not a fan of AI whatsoever. He refuses to even use it. So I kind of see both sides. I think I see it from one piece of like it makes their processing faster, like especially for like, yes, it needs grammar edits, but they can at least put their writing to it and then probably make their writing just sound a little more fancier faster. That would be my first thought. But I would say long term for, can you repeat the second part of the question?
If I remembered it, I
I
could.
know. It
I
was like
know.
a it was like a two-folded question. So you asked me about the editors and
Oh
how
yeah.
the editors.
And then how can we as either on the PR side or on the individual side, how can we leverage what they're going to be doing with AI to get more visibility?
Well, I think it's going to advance them to know things that the day-to-day person that wants to be featured doesn't know because they're in writing online day to day. So they probably know the ins and outs for better search optimization keywords that should be using, like better hyperlinks back to your website. Like I think there are key things that they're just going to know because they live in it day to day. For a consumer that wants to get featured, that adds a lot of value. So
What do you see as kind of so if I'm starting to build, my foundation, I think you called it early on, and I'm getting, I'm getting credibility through all of my videos and my photos and my content and what have you. How often do you get, just picked up kind of out of the blue because of that? Or is that more a question of preparation for when you go out to try and get the visibility that they can respond to what they can see about you and say, oh yeah, that looks credible, or that looks very interesting. Let me set something up. Is it more an inbound thing, or is it kind of more of an outbound thing?
I think that's a two-folded question because I work with some producers that are just looking for things that aren't even aligned with like sometimes what PR people currently have for a client base. So sometimes they're searching for specific restaurants or little small businesses that maybe don't even have a huge presence, but they end up getting found on Instagram because it's exactly what they needed. But there you go. There's advice right there. So you need to be on social media because they are looking for you. That's a one-off situation. I would say like more regularly, the value is like I think it's a relationship game, right? So it's like if you know people, especially in PR, like we all have relationships. We know what anchors and journalists are looking for. We know the type of things that will make you stand out to be found by them, right? Like, yeah, the producer that was looking for an ice cream store, like, are using specific hashtags? Like those are things that we know how to do
Mm.
to get found by them, So I see it as a two-folded question, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and certainly that I think is where the value of a professional like yourself comes in to really steer the activities that the founder or the company might be doing to make sure you've got all of the foundational stuff, in preparation for trying to get that PR when you really have something that's coming out that's going to be.
But I think they do definitely look to see if you are camera ready. are you camera ready? Like, do you have videos of experience? Like, I think that they look for that because they can't have somebody on camera for a TV station if you can't even hold conversation confidently, you know? So I do think that those are definitely things they probably take into consideration when looking
Mm.
for people. Obviously I would say for like articles, like if you're getting quoted in something, it's a little different, but I mean, there is definitely a back end thing that how would they find you? So these are key things you need to figure out. Like how could an editor find you to be quoted? So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what do you think is kind of over the next 6 months? What are going to kind of be the big trends that editors are going to be looking for and latch onto on the and let's do it on the B2B side versus the consumer side.
yeah, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I think AI and PR is just growing a lot. And I think the PR world is continuing to grow because I think social media is a burning out industry. Like, as somebody who started in the social media world a lot with PR, like, it's a constant turnover. And I think PR allows you to do less heavy lifting, I would say, because you build PR people build relationships for a living. Like that's what they do. They're not constantly posting on social media for, it's a little bit of different leverage. So I think that there's a lot of value in just relationship building because I think those are going to continue to open doors for people and give them more opportunities. So that would be my advice.
Yeah. Well, and two, one thing with social media, and I think a lot of us are guilty of it, is that it's easy to, with AI, it's easy to put out, 10 times more content
Totally.
and just overwhelm the whole I don't know, the whole cloud of
Algorithm, like the
activity. Yeah.
algorithms.
Well,
Yeah.
and the algorithms. Yeah, absolutely. And we are all fighting the algorithms. Even my book, when I just launched it on Amazon, they've got an algorithm. And if you get up, to be bestseller, then that has a whole different level of what you get in terms of exposure within Amazon, because you got to be a number one bestseller.
Yeah, so interesting. But I still think so. My theory from doing this for a long time is less is more. Because if you post less and put more quality rather than quantity,
Mm,
you're going to get way more engagement. And also, you're going to do engagement. So I would actually say posting 2 or 3 days a week and spending the other days engaging in other people's content because that's how it comes back to you and it actually translates opportunities for you. So I think that that's what I keep trying to educate because if you do it the way that people are doing it, even with Claude or whatever, like it doesn't stick with people. People can now know AI content. And I'm guilty of that too. I've totally used AI content. You know what I'm saying? But like my organic content that I'm doing manually, that I'm being more intentional with, is sticking better with people than blasting regular content 5, 7 days a week, you know? So
Yep. 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 Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd love to keep going, but unfortunately, we're about out of time. I do have one last question for you, and that is, what advice would you give an up and coming new marketer, or in this case, an up and coming new PR communications person?
I would say like outreach to people you think you're out of your league to outreach to because you never know what doors are going to open if you try. Like, what's the worst happening? If they say no, like I'm not available to talk to you. You're
Yeah.
going to find somebody else. Somebody will say yes. There's a lot of great people in the world that want to mentor and give back. And yeah, that's what I would give in terms of advice.
Yeah. You are so right. And if you don't mind, I'll do a little separate. So I have another book, as I mentioned, The Shroud of Turin, and I was at this PRSA, and they had a handful of editors up there, and it was one of these pitch nights. So everybody, if they wanted to, they could pitch something. And I haven't pitched something in, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, a long time. And I said, well, I just wrote this book. Why not? What have I got to lose? It's bigger than I was ever, would ever expect. And the worst they could do is say no, thanks, but no thanks. And so what? And so it turns out I did a pitch, and I made it up there on the spot. And it was like a 2 minute, you had 2 minutes to do the pitch. Well, hard to believe, but I got a TV interview out of it. I could not
Amazing.
believe it.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it really is. It's just so crazy. It's just hard to believe. And so anyway, to your point, is reaching higher than what you think you can get. You may actually get it. You
It's
may
so
actually get
true.
it.
It's so true. Like you just doing the uncomfortable is where the opportunities come from.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and I was nervous as anything.
Shocking.
Normally I don't get nervous anymore because, I've done this stuff before, but in that case I was nervous as anything and I got lucky, it's
That's
just you
amazing.
never know. You
You
never
just took
know.
a risk, guy. That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, really. Well, Jaclyn, really, this has been great. I think I could talk to you for hours on this topic, but really, thank you so much. It's been great to have you. So, where can folks learn more about you and your company?
Yeah, thank you so much, Guy. This has been wonderful. I'm reachable at nextonscene.com, or my favorite place to hang out is Instagram. So at Next On Scene or Jackie Zook would be a great place to reach out to me.
Fantastic. It was nextonscene.com.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So nextonscene.com. And Jaclyn, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. And for the audience, definitely stay tuned for many other videos in this series on the backstory of marketing and AI.
Thank you, Guy.
Thank you.
Think bigger than your goal. Like, what would be even better? I think where AI can't ever take this from you is the vulnerable stories we all have. We all have stories in our lives that connect emotionally to other people. And the more we can start opening and sharing those stories, like that cracks the door open to really grow to the masses.